Since the end of Volume 5 / the beginning of Volume 6-ish, people have been getting really upset with Yang because she comes off very hypocritical. You see, at the end of Volume 5, Yang finds out that Raven is the Spring Maiden. And this is information that no one really knew because Raven had played for many, many years that Vernal was the Spring Maiden. And as far as it seems, only Vernal really knew that she wasn't. It's not even implied that Ozpin even knew who the real Spring Maiden was. So that's definitely important information. Not just that, but it's important information because it's literally important information. Take Salem, Ozpin, the Relics, and the Maidens. And you have some of the most powerful objects / people in the entire show. So knowing who a Maiden is direly important. Yet Yang doesn't tell anybody. At least we haven't seen her tell anybody, and I'm not going to make assumptions about what may or may not have happened off screen. That's ridiculous. On screen, we haven't seen her tell anybody about this secret, yet she gets mad in Volume 6 at Ozpin for keeping secrets, withholding information, for lying. Now, what's funny is there are some people who I definitely had many discussions with throughout Volume 6, where those people were hating on Ozpin for the same reasons characters like Yang were. Because he's lying or something like that. And whenever I ask them examples of like, okay, what did Ozpin do that's so bad? Like, what lies are you specifically talking about? They can usually cite like 1 or 2 examples about lying about how many wishes the Relic of Knowledge had, and maybe like 1 other example. I'm like, okay, that doesn't sound that bad actually. And it sounds potentially reasonable. You see, when you have a world like Remnant, actually, let's start with this. Humanity in general. Unfortunately, a lot of people are not very trustworthy. A lot of people do very bad things. Not to say that there aren't good people out there, but there are definitely, unfortunately, many bad people out there. It's just the way it is. Now, you couple that with Remnant, where they also have the Grimm, which feed off negative emotion and seem to arguably get stronger or spawn more off negative emotion as well. And you start to see a picture that you can understand more and more and more why Ozpin did the things that he had to do. Plus the fact that he had been betrayed in the past by people, further making him distrust people even more. And the fact that he just has decades of experience. I mean, the dude has been around for actually like arguably thousands of years, probably around 20 or so different lives he's had if you go off the imagery from Volume 6, Chapter 3, The Lost Fable. You can start to see why Ozpin does the things that he does. And now that takes me to Volume 7, Chapter 7, where we had a scene between Blake and Yang. And Blake starts to call out Yang's hypocrisy, and this was very, very satisfying to see. The exchange of dialogue was pretty much this. Yang says, still, he didn't have a lot of good options. Blake says, keeping secrets, taking lives, it makes you wonder how far we will have to go to do the right thing. And then Yang says, Blake, we did what we had to do. This was dialogue from this chapter today, Volume 7, Chapter 7, worst case scenario. Now let me present a hypothetical situation to you. Let's exchange Yang's name for Adam's name and see if this conversation would still canonly make sense. Adam says, still, he didn't have a lot of good options. Blake says, keeping secrets, taking lives, it makes you wonder how far we will have to go to do the right thing. And Adam says, Blake, we did what we had to do. Isn't it interesting that that dialogue, that conversation still makes sense if you put Adam's name there instead of Yang? And to be fair, I may have made a typo here. Let me just make this caveat. The dialogue may be, still, we didn't have a lot of good options, not still, he didn't have a lot of good options. Anyways, the point is, you're starting to see a little bit of a parallel here between Yang and Adam, both using the Geist. We did what we had to do. You know what I mean? So, especially when Blake says, keeping secrets, taking lives, this is literally why she left the White Fang. Adam went down a radical road where he was more and more okay with, let's just say, escalation of physical things. You know what I mean? Like, okay, he was okay with taking people's ability to live. Let's put it that way. And Blake wasn't okay with that. She wasn't okay with that. Even if they were humans, she was not okay with that. And she left him. And here we see Blake now questioning Yang as well, which is wonderful. Because as I've said in previous videos, I think Blake is one of the more respectable, esteemed characters, especially for a younger character in the show. When you compare her to other characters, she's really, in my opinion, done a lot more than them. She's done a heck of a lot for a girl her age, and I think that's impressive. And she also has pretty good morals. She's in the right place, at least. Now, unfortunately, it seems like Blake has been shoehorned somewhat into being like Yang's side girl, and they were kind of making her character one-dimensional. But this scene gives me hope for Blake to continue being the complex character that I like, where she's not perfect, she's flawed, but she means well, and she is not afraid of putting in the work. That's what I like about Blake, man. She has left causes she stood up for before when she thought they were getting corrupt. She's went out of her way to become a huntress, to train, to get stronger. She's tried to mend her family relationship when that was bad. Like, I don't want to start getting into a whole thing about Blake here, but there's a number of reasons why I think she's respectable, and I'm saddened that she's kind of being forced again to be just like Yang's girl, and they're taking away a lot of what made Blake Blake. But this scene, again, gives me hope. Now, that said, there's another potential scenario here. Yang starts to parallel Adam more and more and more and goes down some, like, radical road, further making her a giant hypocrite. Now, I don't think that's very likely at all because, let's be honest, it seems like RT is definitely pushing this narrative where Blake and Yang end up together. They're going to have some turmoil, maybe some more serious talks before then, but ultimately it's like a happy fairy tale ending for them being together, at least. Now, that seems like the most likely thing. However, I do find it interesting that Yang was already a hypocrite, and now Blake is even calling her out on that. So maybe this will be a wake-up call for Yang. Maybe. Maybe not. We'll see how this plays out. And the final piece of this puzzle of Yang being a hypocrite, Yang being a liar, Yang being no good, as she talks down to other people for doing the things that she does wrong too. The final piece of this puzzle from this chapter, making this all come full circle, is Robyn Hill's apparent semblance. Looks like she can touch someone and know if they're telling the truth or not. And that might be color-coded even. How convenient is that? Or not convenient, because then the opponent also knows if they know what the color coding means. But anyways, the point is this. That was a cool little parallel, I'll admit. Our RT did something interesting there. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but I'm going to assume it was. You have this whole discussion with Blake and Yang about keeping secrets, and Blake telling Yang more or less like why it's bad, and she doesn't support that. And then they go after Robyn, and Robyn happens to have a truth semblance. That was pretty cool, actually. I enjoyed seeing that. It fit everything together very well, and further emphasizes the point that Yang's doing some morally questionable stuff. Yang can also be a hypocrite, a liar, and all these things that, again, she preaches to stand against. So all in all, I thought this was an interesting chapter. I'm curious to see what happens next, and it's great to see Blake calling Yang out on her BS. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking it, sharing the video, and or sharing your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy this channel, consider subscribing or double checking that you are subscribed, because you know how things are, and hitting the notification bell. And if you'd like to sponsor this channel, consider looking at the Patreon in the description, the link there, or the join button next to the subscribe button. That's great. You can become a channel member, get a badge, some emojis, and other cool perks as well. So consider all that stuff. And to the awesome people who promoted my last 2 videos over on Twitter, thank you very much. And if you posted it elsewhere, thank you as well. I just don't know. I only know my system only tells me when it's on Twitter. And those people are, for the video earlier today with the motion to dismiss, we have Bruno, SuperSpeed21YT, Codenex, the Lancaster Kid. And for the last video that came out yesterday, we have Dark Raven Wood, Spin Master Rakta, Namad Milankovic, Jake Beardsley, SuperSpeed21YT, Codenex, and Ishra. That's all I got for you guys in this video. Once again, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.